Hey guys, welcome back to Ultimate S&S. So today I'm going to be taking the members channel content and the normal message that we give here, and we're going to combine these because I want people to see what's actually happening, and we will try to do a members live stream. We'll probably do that on Monday, so make sure you check in on that, guys, for those that are members. So one of the things that we're seeing happening around the world right now is we're seeing the food shortages, and we've talked about that a lot on here. We've talked about the fertilizer shortages, and we've talked about the starvation, malnutrition, and stuff that is happening around the globe and increasing. So here's a clip of one of the articles that had read. This comes from the UN's webpage. And if you go to that article that's up there, you will be looking at a situation where they are saying that most of this stuff is because of the pandemic that happened here recently, that we're seeing a lot of this, but that on top of the conflict over in Ukraine right now. But I think it's important that we realize that it goes broader than that. So we have some people that are talking about no, we need to be getting prepared for the next pandemic, because basically they're saying there's going to be another one, and they're talking like it's going to be probably within the next year or two. So here's some of those articles. Now, when you start talking about people like Bill Gates and stuff like that, and you see that they're buying up all this farmland and they're not putting it into practice, that there is a need for food in this country and around the world. And this guy owns all these farms and all this farmland that he's taken through different means, and he's not actually using it to provide food. They're just putting a hold on it, holding that stuff there. Now, will they be producing food for the people, that have the money to be able to buy it later on? I don't know. That's going to be something we'll have to wait and see. But what it does is it puts a hold on all of our resources, where if you hold the resources, you can basically kind of mold the world into what you want it, and you can get the populace to follow along with whatever agenda that they want you to follow along with. So we're seeing everything from these things that are supposedly coming out of glacial melts and stuff, and then we're seeing things like this monkeypox that's coming out now, that's spreading across the nation. And it's really interesting to see a lot of this stuff happen, because they're talking about pandemics, and all of a sudden there's another pandemic, and these are things that was never supposed to be able to cross over into the human genome, yet they are. So we know that they do a lot of DNA testing and stuff like that. It's just really sad to see what's happening in the world. So what do we see that this can lead into? Well, one thing I'm saying that it can lead into is simply the European Union is actually looking at getting implementation of implants. All right. And that'll be in your hands. And they've had some little things you can see online, and where you go to a grocery store, the door's not opening, and then a person comes up, he grabs the handle, and it shows like this almost animated thing where it scans his hand, and it scans that there's a chip, and he's able to go in. Then there's another guy that's wanting to go in, and he can't get in there, and he follows the person in, and he does his grocery shopping. But when he comes to check out, there's no people there. Do we see those self-checkouts everywhere today? Absolutely, we do. It just scans the cart, scans his hand, and on his way out of the door, when he grabs the door, it scans again, and that guy cannot pay for his food. He cannot leave, and the police come and apprehend him. This is a European commercial that's out right now, so I recommend that you go check that out. You should be able to find that on YouTube. It used to be on here. That's been a couple weeks ago, but you should be able to find that. One of the things that I think is interesting is we read verses and stuff that talks about if they don't have a mark in their hand or a mark in their forehead or within their head, that these people are going to basically be outcasts of society. So do we see any kind of news articles coming up of that? I warn you, this stuff is very disturbing. So seeing that, man, Neuralink, for those who need a little more information on it, you can look it up. It's on Tesla's website. Elon Musk is the big brainchild behind this. This is to place a chip in somebody's head. Now, they have gone through a lot of different phases with this, with pigs and with primates and stuff like that, and they were actually successful in running some kind of a factory that sends out shipping, shipping and receiving and stuff like that, like a warehouse. And they were able to run that with primates that basically were put into a type of a AI reality because of that chip, and their actions within a game that those primates are playing were actually running that facility over in India. It's pretty interesting stuff. But then there's the medical aspect, which is what's being pushed over here in America. So the medical aspect is they want to get paraplegics, and they are fixing to go into human testing with this. Here's the article. They're going to be implementing these human tests, guys. So right now they're looking at paraplegics and people that have spinal cord damage and stuff where it's not able to send those messages to the nerves and stuff. But they're expecting with this stuff that they can actually take and get those people walking again. And that sounds pretty cool. I mean, it really does. And then there's the aspect of like gaming or even TV and stuff. The new big thing is like the metaverse AI and stuff. And I don't know if you've ever played any of those AI, or I say AI, when you play VR type thing. They have goggles and you have these bulky controllers and stuff. And yeah, you can do your boxing and stuff like that with it. And it seems kind of fun to begin with. It's short lived, for just a few minutes because you got to keep charging this stuff, dealing with batteries, and then you can't really see what you're doing. You're moving around. And if your border that you set up is messed up, you might end up like if you're boxing, hit a wall or something like that, or somebody walk into the zone and you accidentally hurt your friend or something like that. And so one of the things that this new brain chip is supposed to do, guys, is make it so you can sit back in your chair and you can actually go into, your VR worlds. You can do your internet shopping and stuff like that. You can actually be on the job site, need information, and actually be able to bring that information up and in real time, quick, just like it was a thought. Because within this type of a system that you're doing with Neuralink is no longer just your basic processors and stuff. So you may have heard that they have been really making a lot of leeway with quantum chips and quantum technology. So one of the things that they have been able to do is they can take data and they can move it in real time, just like, say transporters on Star Trek where it moves the information from here to here. That's basically how a thought fires up in your brain. And they have been mastering this type of stuff. So do we see where this can be a problem? Well, when you read these articles and you see that they were able to put not just primates and pigs into a hive mentality to accomplish a overall goal. Now think about a society today that is saying that, like, there was a guy who came out and said that Google's AI had reached a singularity event where it is now self-aware and things like that. I'm not talking about some Terminator style stuff, though. I mean, I guess technically anything's possible. But think of it this way. We were warned about those that are taking these marks in their heads and in their hands and stuff, and that there is a time that's going to become where everyone will have to do that. Now, I understand they're not going to come straight out and say, okay, you got to take these. You know, they're not going to do that right off the bat. It's going to be optional, just like it is in Europe right now. And they're looking at this chip thing. It's going to start off as a medical study, and as it's proven, then it will become more of an accessory. I mean, that's kind of the way this stuff looks. So there's talks between Elon Musk and this guy that owns like Facebook, the metaverse, and all that kind of stuff. And there's talks between them about how they can make that compatible with each other to where people could be in VR gaming and stuff and the metaverse as you would have it, and basically be right there at their house. They can complete their jobs and stuff right there in some kind of a new metaverse setting. So I think it's going to be very, very, very important to watch what happens with this stuff. Now think about this. They put monkeys and pigs into a hive link mentality. For those who don't know what that is, if you look at honeybees, is a great example. The queen puts out signals and pheromones and things, and the bees all respond to what she says. They don't really have a free will while there is a queen in the hive, guys. So that's something that we need to be aware of when you look at it from an aspect. If they can put people into a hive mentality, what then happens? Well, we know in the end days that these people are being hunted because they've rejected that type of technology. They've rejected those marks. So in a hive mentality type of situation, you're looking at these people will be hunting them down. They will know immediately that someone is not linked into their network or whatever you want to call it at that point. And it's going to progress to a way where when you think of possessions and stuff like that, well, it does not require technology. It's a lot easier with technology because it is a way of basically opening yourself up to whatever the possibilities are of it. So a lot of the times when you read about possessions and stuff, there was actions that were taken that invited this stuff in. So you have to watch your actions, and you have to watch how you perceive the the narratives that are being pushed, because you need to sift everything that's being said through biblical standard now. So we had posted up just recently on our community area a link with some pretty cool stuff that was found overseas. This dates back like just over 2,000 years ago. This would have been right after Jesus Christ had ascended into heaven and when the disciples were going out and Paul was going out. So if you've ever read Acts 17, you will read about Paul. He comes into an area around Athens, and he's talking to the inhabitants, and he's seeing all these idols, or what you would call altars and stuff, set to these different types of gods. And he comes to this one, and it says to the unknown God, and he asks them about it, and they said, well, we just don't want to offend any if we've missed any. So that opens up an opportunity for him to share the gospel, that the unknown God is God Almighty, and that Jesus Christ is his son. And the gospel was then moving through that area, and they have found where this temple is actually at, guys. So definitely check the community post, and they've even found the altar area that says to the unknown God. So rather than take the biblical truth that led them to this discovery, they now take it and they change the narrative around, where no longer was it referred to as an altar toward God. It is now an altar toward Bel or Marduk, which are different names of satanic beings throughout history. So we need to realize that they will take truth to get them to a point, and then they will twist it and then change the narrative of what it is that was actually said in God's word. And that is not anything new. We see that with back in the garden with Adam and Eve. They're told not to even look at the fruit, don't touch it, and don't eat it. So what happens, we have Eve in the area, she's checking out the fruit, she's looking at it, she's touching it, sees that it's good to eat, and then eats it and takes it to Adam, and he does the same thing. So we have to be very careful about not compromising. If we know where the end goal is, we clearly see the path. And the end goal is to get the entire population implanted with this stuff, so that they will be able to basically take you over, and it's a form of worship. So a lot of people think that worship is just raising your hands and singing. If you go back and you read in the Old Testament, you will see where the prophets come down and they're getting onto Israel, and they're saying, listen, God said he's tired of the noise and the racket that you're making. They were out, they were having your festivals and singing. It had just basically become something that they did on a religious aspect, and it was no longer their heart in behind it. And that's one of the things we have to watch is our actions. They speak louder than our words, and if they are opening themselves up to these types of manipulations early on, they're going to fall for it when it finally comes. A lot of people are like, well, I can go along the path for a certain point and then divert from it right before it gets bad. But unfortunately, that is not the truth of things. So I highly recommend that everyone, give those articles a read. You can find that stuff in Google. You'll be able to see the article headlines and stuff in these images. But everyone have a wonderful day. Just be aware of the times that we're living in.